and welcome to the Tech Show. What we got coming up, Owen?
We've got a new pivot.
We do. There's some new WTB grips as well out there.
An 8/11 speed cassette.
That's not 8 and 11 speed.
Oh,
like...
8 cog to 11. Perfect, okay.
No. It's for 8 speed and 11. Never mind. You're going to have to wait for the news to find out. And we also rant about MTB standards.
Standards?
Standards.
There aren't standards.
That aren't that standard. Okay, today we're going to debate mountain biking standards, or the fact that standards aren't that standard at all, are they, Owen?
Not really,
I mean, we've
no.
got multiple seat post sizes, bottom brackets. Don't even get me started on headset sizing and
Headset's not too bad. That's pretty calm. We went out as... No, but that's it. There is a code there. There's some logic to that. Bottom brackets, it's like reading runes or reading kind of like, I don't know, coffee grounds to see some kind of mysticness. Yeah, it's difficult.
It's upsetting really, isn't it? So let's go through a couple of them, because I think one of the main ones that sort of changed through in mountain biking was the whole steerer tube changing. So we went over to 118 steerers, and that obviously got rid of some old straight tubes, and because we went over to tapered, and that killed a few standards. Yes, then we went to
But before then we had 1.5 inches.
Yes.
So we had 1.5 inches. But actually, even if we go back in the time machine a little bit further back, Gary Fisher tried to do Evolution headsets, which is 1.25 inches, which is a really good size.
Is it?
Well, it's quite big, and quite big's good. Then we went to 1.5 inches, which is really big, possibly a bit too big, and then we went, we should probably simmer down and go to tapered, which is sort of, we've stabilised.
Yeah, I
apart
feel
from
like
the e-bikes, where there's another one as well.
I feel like we've settled on that a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty commonplace. So do you think that that's going to happen to something like seat post size, for example? Because there's a lot out there, isn't there? There's like 3? Is there 3 now?
No, there's more.
Okay.
There's more. There's lots.
If you count the old retro stuff, maybe, yes, of course.
Yeah.
But why do we have all 3 of those?
I mean, I get like 27.2 is a kind of like classic slimmer size, and it's down to seat tube design, down to the steel that you could get to make a frame out of, and trying to make stuff out of steel. You're trying to make it as light as you can. Then aluminium came in, and it's like, cool, we're going to have really big diameter tubes. And then we moved to carbon, where effectively we can do anything, but we're still hamstrung by these old standards of stuff made of metal. Yeah. So I think that's just why we've got this, bonkers selection of sizes.
Yeah, there's brands out there that say, you know, the smaller ones have a bit more flex, and they do that on purpose for comfort, maybe for a cross-country hardtail, and the bigger ones are for stiffness. I'd like one. I think I would like one. What about you? Does it bother you?
I'm okay with seat post standards.
Because at the weekend I tried to fit one, and it wasn't until I'd done all the jiggery pokery and got the post there that I realised it was the size bigger.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think what I find quite fun with standards is that lots of them are kind of dubbed as new. Bit of a bad pun there, but you know, they're highlighted as new and exciting, but actually we've sort of had them before, but we forgot about them. So we've got boost spacing, which we've had for a while, so some people it's not new, but for others it is new. For me it's new.
Yeah.
But actually, when we had the 20mm downhill axle, that was 110 axle spacing. That was boost spacing on the front already.
Yeah,
but if we go further back in the time machine to a guy called Charlie Cunningham, who is a legendary frame designer, he doesn't get as much recognition as he probably should. He was doing 118 front hubs and kind of effectively making wider, almost 148 rears back in the 80s. And his logic was to make the spokes and hubs all stronger. I feel like we get caught in a train of thought, and then thankfully these ideas do bubble up. But 148 when we had 150, that is a bit of a pain in the bum.
Well, yeah, I mean, that goes to explain why Boost came about. I mean, things were changing, things were developing. We were trying to fit more gears onto a free hub. We were also going with bigger wheel sizes, so maybe things were arguably getting a little bit flexier, so they wanted to stiffen things up in the back end. So this new standard came about to kind of improve things. It wasn't just to make you buy another thing, was it?
No.
It did open up a lot of things for frame designers to create better frames for us and better rides.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Having a I guess so. The brief synopsis is that if you have a wider sort of rear hub spacing, and then you can have a slightly wider bottom bracket area, it means that you can fit in bigger tyres with a relatively short chainstay. So I guess the geometry thing of super short chainstays has drifted away a little bit, but we still want big tyres. I guess the other factor also is that we've now, thankfully, dropped the front mech, and that has melted away. So that's opened us up to bringing the bottom bracket, shortening the chainstays effectively. So they were with purpose. I just do feel that there was a wonderful standard 150 there already that we could have just used, but no, we decided to 148.
I mean, this is like proving the positives in non-standards, is industry trying to innovate and make things better for us. Otherwise, the opposite end of the scale is when you have a company. So, for example, talking about Boost, Hope did try and bring out their own standard, which is 130mm by 17 millimeter hub spacings on their HB 160, I believe. And it's like, oh great, and everyone got upset about that because it may have been better. It absolutely may have been better. The problem is we'd all sort of put our money behind something else, and having another standard on your own bike is a headache.
I think that did also come with like a 7-speed rear cassette, I think, from memory. So it was a Hope cassette on there. So I think Hope's logic was that, well, if we're going to design the back end of a bike, we want it to be really narrow. So it eliminates, it means this Q factor, this nominal number that we give where your feet are roughly placed. So that's axle or bottom bracket width plus how far the crank moves out, all means that it's going to move your feet further out. And for lots of people, actually having a narrower stance is quite nice. So that was their logic, but you're right, it's all about compromise. And they were happy to compromise originally to go to this 130, which was an old standard back in the day, not bolt through, but old standard. But yeah, you're right. I think we should keep pushing and keep marching forward, because otherwise we get stuck like the roadies have. And they've, up until disc brakes came out, they were trapped with 100mm front end and a 130 rear space. They were like just locked in, and there was no way for them to develop. Whereas I think that's what's so radically exciting about mountain biking, is that we haven't been tethered by some weird restrictions from a small office in Switzerland where it's like, oh, no, you can't have that tube shape. You're not allowed that because of some various logic about aerodynamics. It's like, no, go wild. As long as the wheels are the same, crack on.
Yeah, well, also, we could end up like the motor industry. I think it's quite an interesting comparison, because someone brought this to my attention. I was quite surprised, actually, by thinking about it, is that you don't argue with the motor industry bringing out their own standards. You have VW specific parts most of the time. You have Ford specific parts. And you don't moan at the industry and go, well, excuse me, I want to build up my own car with my own parts, and how dare you make your own proprietary stuff? So why are we so pernickety when it comes to bikes?
This is an interesting one. Actually, Formula, so fork and brake manufacturer, roughly based in Italy, they've literally sort of come out, I think, this week or last to say, oh, we're going to have a 10 years parts spares catalogue.
Wow. Oh, yes, you're right.
Which sounds wow, but I think that's where there's a bit of reluctance, because we've had lots of smaller brands do lots of super innovative things, I guess, like early nuke proofs. So they had we're talking kind of in the 90s, I want to say mid-90s, where they had a suspension shock in the head tube, which was great space saving, but then you had like proprietary headset cup and you had proprietary stem. So if anything goes wrong and you want to change anything, because the bike industry isn't like the automotive industry where you've got to have 10 years worth of spares for a proprietary part, it does limit people. So I feel like that's maybe why. But I guess, what are your thoughts on it? Like, what are your thoughts on mountain bike standards in general? Are they standardised enough? Do we need more?
Does it bother you?
I feel like it might do. But...
Well, let us know down in the comments below. Okay, so Pivot have updated the Switchblade. It's a minor update here, but it does follow those usual marketing buzzwords of longer and slacker with an improved suspension kinematics. So it is a 29er carbon, although you can run it with mixed wheels if you wanted to. 142 in the rear, 160 up front, with a new 65.2 degree head angle, being specific there. And the reach is from 410 to 500, and the chainstays are sized to independent, which is nice.
Yeah, very
also nice is that there is SRAM and Shimano builds, as I feel like Shimano has been less common on new builds these days. But unfortunately, this is not going to be a budget bike. It starts from £6,399.
Ouch. Interesting. KMC, long-time chain manufacturer, have come out with its first cassette ever, which is really fascinating. It's called the React series. They've got 11, 10, 9 and 8-speed cassettes in a kind of wide range cassettes. Probably most interesting is they're all on HG, so the Shimano kind of old-school classic freehub body. But really interesting to see somebody else bring out cassettes in the market. So, yeah.
Yeah, and WTB have released 4 new grips, although they say people generally fall into 3 categories, and that is people wanting comfort, people wanting minimalistics, or people wanting a balance of the two. So they've got the Trace, which is 32 millimeters of rubber, which means more cushion and more vibration damping. They've got the Burr, which is a thinner 32 millimeter with lower profile for those who like more control and more bar feel. And then the Wavelength, which promises a balance between those two things, which tapers from 32 to 30 mil into the center. And then there is the CZ Control, which is a semi-ergonomic grip. Both of those are available in black or tan for $29.95.
Very precise. Interesting. Okay, next up is a budget wheel set from Forge and Bond. So, American manufacturer of fancy carbon wheels. Or carbon rims.
Slightly different sort of carbon, but yeah.
It is, yeah. Which is really interesting. So it's their fusion fibre, so it's recyclable from sort of like from bean to cup, effectively. You can redo it, it's my understanding.
Yeah, they don't use resin like a normal carbon mould would.
Ah,
so
interesting, so it's not pre-preg.
Thermoplastic, not a thermoset.
Ah, okay, there we go. So,
anyway.
Yeah. Oh, you saw them at Sea Otter. Hence why you know so much about them.
I did, yeah. Do check out last year's Sea Otter if you want to understand a bit more about the difference.
There we go.
Between
Okay. So they're launching a new rim, and budget wheel set starting from $1,250, which is actually, I know that's very expensive. It's not terrible for carbon and good quality carbon. So Shift 25 are their XC29ers. Presumably, 25 mil internal width, so useful for 2.1 to 2.4, 380 grams per rim or 1,600 grams a set. That's pretty light for that much money. There's a Shift 30, which unsurprisingly has a 30 mil internal width. So yeah, for the bigger 2.3 to 2.6 tyres, and those are about 1,800 grams. And then there's a 29er set as well. For enduro racing. No e-bike ones there, though. I think they're missing out.
No, but they've got the enduro ones which are harder hitting, so potentially.
Interesting. Well, lots to look at.
Okay, last week we asked what company did Scott buy the majority share in order to get that internal shock, and it was...
Bold.
Yes, correct. And actually, this was the biggest response we've had. We had about 32 correct answers here. That's amazing, isn't it? Look at that list.
A lot of pride points going out.
Look at that list
well done.
on the screen.
Yeah,
so many
huge.
pride points for you guys.
Congratulations.
I think this might be a little bit more difficult, but let's see if we can get as many responses. I'm not trying to catch you out.
No, go for it, yeah.
But this week, our question is, what year were Pivot Cycles founded? And if you don't know that, then do you know what the first models were?
Oh,
they're younger than you think.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be an interesting one because we'll tell you the answer next week.
Very exciting rewind here. We've got some fantastic bikes.
Yeah.
This is awesome. This is a mountain cycle. Mountain cycle, one of the first cool brands to use monocoque sections for aluminium frames. And this one's, gorgeous. This one's from Rob.
In California, who said, I tried to get it on the Dirt Shed show, but it didn't get picked, so I'm trying here. Oh, well,
good
thanks
work.
for being the second choice.
We see good stuff, you see, so that's why. Just send it to us. We're more authentic eye. And next is, wow, is that? It is. STS.
GT STS 1000.
Okay, so for the non-nerds out there, the LTS was RTS was the first suspension bike from GT. Then they did the LTS, those downhill version as
the longer
XC.
travel.
I think so. I don't know that. Yeah. Then they did an STS which had this really clever thermoplastic front end, which was really jazzy. And the bike to have of the time.
Bike of the future from the past.
It was. Apparently, though, the sort of moulds wasn't necessarily great. So PT always rode an aluminium one. But yeah, absolutely knockout bike there. So thanks for sending it in. Brilliant. Comments.
Yeah, it's time where these people, sort of the warriors, get on the keyboards, and we have some comments.
Without you, we are nothing. So please keep firing us in. It's great to hear all the conversations.
I love the comment section.
Well, yeah, because they're generally nice. They're complimenting you on your nice hair. Have you got a nice new haircut? It's great.
I did, yeah. They were all about the hair last week. Thank you very much for the comments. Last week we were talking about, do e-bikes look like mountain bikes or vice versa? Which way round?
Yep.
Interestingly, did we spot Brendan Fairclough riding a new Scott lightweight e-bike in his stories? Check this out. It was a little... No?
I didn't.
And there's definitely no TLD Adidas collab coming out.
Again?
Anyway,
okay, nice.
Nutella, who says, is that like Nutella?
Maybe.
Says production costs are probably cheaper to have similar frames between e-bikes and regular bikes. That's an interesting viewpoint. Maybe the engineering and the design and the suspension might save a little bit, but...
I think if they were same, it would, but I'm not sure they are.
The moulds aren't the same, aren't they?
I think it's just an aesthetic thing, unfortunately, but
it's a good suggestion.
Yeah, Taylor Player, shivers. I think brands have a similar look between acoustic, more on that word, and electric bikes because they develop geometry and linkage designs that work with either acoustic or electric.
Yeah, and then the internet exploded because apparently, of all the things we said last week, who thought the word acoustic was going to be
off some bikes for looking
divisive.
Absolutely ugly, but
but apparently saying acoustic really got people's goats. I've got George Fernandez Lopez who says acoustic bikes, mountain bikes are no more bicycles, that aren't they just normal bikes these days? And then we have people going in saying you can't call it an acoustic screwdriver, so why are we calling it an acoustic
thankfully someone
bike?
has. G. Pierce has said, to be fair, there's no such thing as an acoustic guitar until the electric guitar was invented.
Very good point.
So, yeah, there is some logic out there. What would you prefer us to call mountain bikes versus e-mountain bikes?
Yeah,
or is that how you want it to be split? I mean,
someone's saying analogue bikes. Yeah, I've got a lot of friends who say analogue, like analogue, digital. It's just fun, guys. It's just a bit of fun. I think I started taking the mick out of acoustic and electric long ago, and it's just suddenly stuck. If I'm talking about e-bikes, I say acoustic. Anyway, it's really not that important. It's got to be
the other way around. If you're talking about e-bikes are electric and then regular bikes are acoustic.
Yeah, because they're going to become the new norm. So, yeah, we're going to have to talk about...
No, it's not. Don't worry. Your regular mountain bike is not disappearing. They will be around for a long time.
Anyway, acoustic bikes being built up from the box on Saturday.
Is that coming up? There we go. I wonder who does that.
I don't know. I wonder what bike you're doing as well.
Don't know.
It looks nice,
All will be revealed.
Yeah. Are we not... Is that...
No, we can't talk about it yet.
We can't talk about it.
No, you'll get tasered.
If you tune in to that Saturday video, you will learn something new about the channel, sort of. Also on Sunday, we have how are mountain bike wheels built differently?
Yeah.
Rims, profiles. This is you again, isn't it?
It is actually me
It's
again,
an Owen weekend.
Yeah.
But if you get bored of Owen, actually, I don't often plug this.
No,
as
that's
if they
it.
get bored of you.
Just not me. It's fine.
Over on GMBN, I did a video about women-specific bikes and whether they are legit. What's the point? So if you want to join in that debate, head over to GMBN on Saturday. But for now, thank you for watching.